Larry Shover. He is Chief Investment Officer, and he's joining us from SFG Alternatives in Chicago. Larry, so we've had U.S. court approving that mega merger, you could say, of AT&T and Time Warner. I was speaking with somebody earlier who said, look, this could really light a fire under M&A and therefore help push U.S. markets higher in the second half of 2018. Is that how you see it?
Unfortunately, yes, I do see it that way, only because I think consensus almost assumed the opposite, that this deal would not go through, and worried about how it would affect M&A, and you know, that affects a large amount of businesses, including investment banking and banking in general, not to mention the companies that are involved in it. So I do think it'll help. It'll be a tailwind. The only issue I have with the tailwind in the stock market is that we're close to the top end of this aged range we've been in, and it's not as compelling as it would have been if the S&P 500 was 300 points lower.
Certainly so. So we had a pretty lackluster day of trade today. Volume's quite low. The market is hanging out for the FOMC. Not only that, but the ECB. This we know. I'm just reading that Jeffrey Gundlach, so he's the CEO of Double Line Capital, saying that he does not see a U.S. recession in the offing, but he does see slower global growth. Is this a major risk as far as you see it for the latter half of 2018? Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a risk. The issue with that risk is that we've seen global growth actually in the first half largely decelerate, but it has stopped decelerating, almost hit bottom. And when you look at a lot of the measures, actually doing pretty well. And the one I look at is like earnings per share in Europe. I mean, the one indicator, you have the revisions for earnings per share have gone back to positive. They were negative for the first 4 months of the year, and now they're positive. So I wouldn't say we've hit the bottom, but I do think we've stopped decelerating, and it's a risk, but that's not the risk I'm really worried about. What is the risk that you're really worried about then, Larry?
The risk I'm worried about is, let's face it, central banks are tightening or becoming less accommodative. I mean, sooner or later it's got to happen. And so when that does happen, it's a domino effect where things that wouldn't be a big deal to the markets all of a sudden do become a big deal. Italy, I mean, that of course it's a major situation, but it's magnified in situations when central banks around the world become less accommodative. So that said, I just think people are going to be asking for more risk premium, and we probably will see more volatility going forward in the second half of 2018.
Are you bullish in that scenario on commodities, or how do you view commodities?
Well, commodities have been like the best investment in the first half of the year so far. I mean, on a weighted basis, about 6%. I definitely can't treat all commodities equal. I tend to be more of an uber bull in iron ore, and I know the Australians laugh at me for that because it hasn't worked out, but I still think we're going to get into a balanced market. Industrial metals overall will continue to do well in the second half. Oil, on the other hand, since the beginning of the year, I've said mid to low 60s, and I still maintain that view. Didn't look very pretty a month ago, and oil is like in the 70s. And gold, I think I would buy it if it got down to about $12.50 in U.S. terms, and we're still about $40 away from that.
All right, Larry Shover, we'll have to wrap it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good one.